because it ends up being all about how they won't eat whales. It's really funny, but welcome to Recotopia, a happy home for recommended movies, shows, and music from two people you can definitely trust. Trustability varies by region, no guarantees implied. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Atkinson and Jeremy Scott.
I didn't mean to offend. I just think that we find through blame our means to change, and I want to question that. I want to look at everything because I blame myself.
Hello.
Hey!
How's everybody doing? How's everybody?
Hey!
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Want to
Hey, welcome everybody in the chat.
Yeah, the chat, man.
Well, welcome to you, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody suggested playing Europe's The Final Countdown during that countdown that we just had, and now I can't get that song out of my head. Can't get that song.
Final countdown.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, this is Recotopia episode 18. I am Chris Atkinson.
I am Jeremy Scott.
And today's big recommend is going to be Mass, a movie that super timely or untimely,
Accidentally,
yeah. I was thinking about suggesting that movie about 4 weeks ago, and then we've had two big mass shootings since then because we're the United States.
yes.
But anyway, on to the small recommends. What do you got? What do you got?
It's no big deal.
Itty bitty living space.
It's so small and light.
It's small, it's tiny, it's petite, it's wee.
I watched yesterday with my wife the new Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie.
Oh, I've heard
on
good
Disney
things
Plus.
about this.
This is a solid recommend. I think you're going to laugh and have a great time. I do think at the end of the day, they went so far with the other properties and characters in the background that they turned the movie into a Where's Waldo for the background stuff, to the point where I think I started paying less attention to the story. I mean, there's Simpsons characters in this movie. Batman is in this movie. E.T.'s in this movie.
Wow.
Roger Rabbit. There are probably 100 different properties and characters because the premise here is that the cartoon chipmunks are real, and the old Rescue Rangers show was Chip and Dale acting on a soundstage and filming with human crew and cartoon crew and yada yada. But then the show's canceled, so now they're washed up.
Yeah.
But they're still cartoons, and so they just litter the screen with other cartoons that are either washed up or super successful. And it's really fun, but about the halfway point, I started going, man, I'm laughing more at the background posters and characters than I am at the actual story going on in front of me. I think that's okay. I think that's fine. I think they captured a lot of that Lego movie kind of wacky, fun, winky stuff. It's an hour and a half. I'd give it a B+, A-. I think you're going to have a good time. Your kids are going to have a great time, but you're going to have to watch this thing 12 times to get every single reference they made in the background, and I don't want to do that.
Wow.
But I recommend it. It's fun. And it's this is the Lonely Island people, basically. Andy Samberg, John Mulaney, Seth Rogen are all voices, J.K. Simmons. All the voices are great. But you can tell... because they make this whole thing about it's lame and cliche when cartoons are forced to rap to try and revive their career to stay relevant. But then there's, of course, a scene where they have to rap to distract somebody.
Right.
And it is straight out of Lonely Island SNL video shorts, that song. Because it ends up being all about how they won't eat whales. It's really funny. But I recommend it. I think you guys would like it. There you go. It's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, that highly appeals to me. When you first started talking about it, I was like, is this Lord and Miller? But it makes sense that Lonely Island would be behind this. So I will jump on to the giant bandwagon that is Top Gun Maverick and just say, hey, this movie blows away that first movie quite a bit. I mean, it obviously needs that foundation of the first movie to have some of the themes that it has. So, it's not like a movie that just stands on its own and doesn't need that original Top Gun. But I'm already being asked, did it take my breath away? It did. It did, in fact. It did, in fact, take my breath away. I watched it in IMAX. I think a lot like how Gravity was, you should experience this in IMAX or on just whatever the biggest screen is possible. I'm sure the 40X is fine too, where the one where they, the seats vibrate and whatever, and I'm sure that's great too. But for me, the big screen with the sound and everything, it's one of those where the action is just so well done in this, and we can tell that there's a dedication to reality in this rather than digital effects. We have, for the past 20 to 30 years, gotten used to digital effects so much that we have a whole generation of moviegoers who are like, oh, I love that. That's the way things are supposed to be, and that's great. And then something real happens all of a sudden, and then you realize, oh, this is how movies really should be made when we do action movies. And I realize that there are limitations to what you can do. You don't want to kill people out there, but
sure.
There are some moments. There were actually some moments where I was like, I had that deep breath like I did in Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh wow. Wow.
After the sandstorm scene in this. There's a lot of bullshit in this, obviously. When we do Sins video, there'll be 200 Sins easily.
Okay.
However, we'll probably be removing quite a bit as well because of everything is going on. So
well, McQuarrie of the Mission Impossible films is a producer on this film, and I think a co-writer.
Yep.
And I think that I've already said a lot about my love for Joseph Kosinski's work, who did Only the Brave. And you put those two together with this modern Tom Cruise attitude, because you got to remember Top Gun, the first one, Tom Cruise wasn't Tom Cruise then.
Right.
That movie helped make him Tom Cruise. What I've been reading a lot about these movies, obviously, a lot of articles being published. I told you that I read that the studio Paramount paid the Navy $11,000 an hour for any time a plane was being filmed, which is apparently only about a fourth of what it costs the Navy to run the plane anyway. And I read that the first movie caused an uptick in people signing up for the Air Force and not the Navy, because the movie didn't do a great enough job explaining where these planes were coming from.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I will say, like, look, I think Jennifer Connelly is a much better romantic interest in this. I think we all like Kelly McGillis, but I don't think she and Tom Cruise were like vibing that much in that.
Right.
No pun intended. But I of course I'm Jennifer Connelly. If you had me rank my all-time crushes, is in the top 5. I probably said that about 10 women, but Jennifer Connelly is one of my all-timers. So like I really like her in this, and and Miles Teller is great. All the other pilots that have their own little call signs and whatever, they're all good in this. I think if there's one thing about the movie that's maybe shortchanged, is because this movie is Top Gun Maverick and it's a Tom Cruise movie, the characters don't get the same kind of play they did in the original. Like there's not there's a nice man kind of in this, but I think he gets short shrifted in this. even though he's important, but like, I feel like it could have been better that way. But anyway, if you want to, this is like old time blockbuster type stuff. It's really good.
Awesome. I saw somebody said it's exactly like Dead Poet Society. An instructor goes back to his alma mater to teach. His teaching methods upset the higher ups, but in the end, his students all learn from him.
Ah, I like that. I think that's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct.
All right, I got another recommend that is a mini-series, and this is because it was on yesterday in a marathon for Memorial Day, as it is every year. Band of Brothers on HBO. This is I believe, 10-episode mini-series produced in equal parts by Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. Every actor in the world is in this movie. You name an actor, they're in this movie. I guarantee.
Tom Hardy.
I mean, this miniseries. Tom Hardy is not in this miniseries.
Nah.
Actually, he may be. No, I think he is. I know James McAvoy is. I mean, it just goes on and on.
It's a
and
lot
on.
of people, though.
And I didn't catch every episode yesterday. I was in and out of the room the TV was on.
But this is a series you've seen about 8 times already, though.
It
right?
is. I've seen it a bunch of times, and it never diminishes in quality. And if it's been on your stack of shame, list of shame,
It is on mine.
then I would kick it up a notch or two.
And I have no excuse. I have HBO Max. I have this series Blu-ray. In fact, I have.
Oh wow!
I have that in so that I could watch it that way. Even so, I do need to see this, and of course, I make time for series all the time. I blew through Better Call Saul's like half season that they got going now. Blew through that in 2 days. So why can't I do the same with Band of Brothers? Right?
Well, I mean, it's heavy stuff, so it's not for every mood. But certainly on a day when you're thinking about those who have served and died in the armed forces, it's apropos. Maybe I'll just remind you next time we come up to Memorial Day. I'll be like, hey, they're gonna marathon that all day. And anyway, I like that. I'm already seeing a little bit of support here in the chat for Band of Brothers. And J.C. Davis is making you a deal that although I don't even know if he's making the deal with the right person, but he says if you watch this, he'll watch From the Earth to the Moon. Which I think is another one that I have touted. I'm not sure if you've
which
seen
is one that I watched the first couple of episodes to, and then it was one of those. It's not like I didn't like it or anything. It's just that I just stopped. So I need to
stuff happens.
Restart it. So yeah, I'm gonna be on that, and I've heard the Pacific is really good too, even though it's not as good as this. So I also have that Blu-ray. So I'll need to watch these at some point. My friend Mike and of course Jonathan, who is a part of the Cinemasins crew, all went to see Weird Al Yankovic on Sunday night.
Nice.
After the Weird Al Yankovic concert, Mike is like, on the Criterion channel, there's this movie called Elevator to the Gallows, which is a new French New Wave movie, came out in 1958. That I think you would like. So I watched this movie, and hell yeah, this movie's great. This is all part of this. I love this. I love this type of stuff. So it has Jean Moreau in it, who was in a ton of famous French New Wave movies and European films back in the day, Jules and Jim, The 400 Blows, all those type of things. And she's in it. It's directed by Louis Malle. It's about this couple who have who are going to conspire to kill this woman's husband. And at the very beginning, this guy has a method. He's going to he works with her husband. He's going to figure out a way to do this before the end of the day at work. So the opening scene is his murder, and it's almost kind of like a Columbo, like what mistakes is he going to make, that type of thing. The movie does not turn out to be very Columbo-esque, but that's exactly how that murder comes up. You're like, oh, what mistakes is he going to make and all that. Well, it looks like he's going to get away with it because he's done all the right stuff and whatever. And then he gets down, he rides down the elevator with a couple of other coworkers, gets to his car, turns the ignition, and then he looks up and he's like, oh, I left something up there. I need to go back up. So he goes back, to the building with his car still running, goes back into the building, and he gets in the elevator, and then someone shuts off the power to the whole building, and then he's in the elevator stuck. And meanwhile, there is outside, there's a florist who knows this guy, who's kind of dating this other dude, and this dude is kind of a small-time criminal or whatever. He sees this awesome car this guy's driving, steals the car, takes the girl with him, and drives off. His Jean Moreau sees this car, sees the girl on the passenger side, thinks that her boyfriend is driving off with another woman. It's very Great Gatsby, that
Okay.
recognizing someone by their car. I'll never understand this. Never understand this. Anyway, these two go on have an adventure that's going to, you're wondering, because they start using this guy's name, the guy who's stuck in the elevator. They're using this guy's name, so anything they do out here in his name is going to come back to him somehow, right? So
yeah, awesome.
So his girlfriend is looking for him, doesn't know where he is. He's in the elevator trying to get out, and you have this couple out there doing stuff with using his name. And of course, there's all this stuff that's just conspiring to this nice finale and everything. That's this is a really good movie.
Awesome.
I had never heard of it before, but it's like a 7.9 on the IMDb, and it's this is good stuff.
You know what's on my list of shame? The Criterion streaming service.
Yeah. Now
I
look,
need to sign up for that.
honestly, yeah, you can get on that and just you. They have their like collections and stuff that they push, and they're like, oh, these collections are amazing. Like, here's the French New Wave collection, and here's this director, and it's like, wow, that director, wow, all those movies are on this whatever. But like, there's stuff sometimes where I'm like, I wonder where I can watch this or whatever, and I go to that Real Good app or whatever, and Criterion's got it quite a bit of times. So, yeah,
Well, all right.
yeah, they're a good service.
All right. Excellent.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, on to the big recommend.
I'm fine. It's just that you're so big.
It's so huge.
It's a good rule, but this is bigger than rules.
It's bigger on the inside.
Is it? I noticed.
This is this is a heavy topic, especially considering what has just transpired in the past couple of weeks and what often transpires here. And then we always have huge debates about guns and mental health and all that. This movie does not get into the gun and mental health debate very often. It gets a little bit into it. In fact, when you watch Mass, you do not know exactly what, if you I don't know what the trailers were like for this. I don't know if by reading the IMDb synopsis you can figure out what this is, but this movie, for about 20 something minutes, you have no idea what's going on. All you know is something's about to happen at this church. There's going to be a meeting. There are people at the church who are there to kind of like find a room, make the comfort happen, whatever. They're trying to get everything right. And what this movie does right off the bat is, hey, those small things, a lot of times you don't know whether they'll be big things or not, or things that you think are big but aren't really. This is one of those things where it tries to balance those things. There's like, there's a point where like, I don't know who that woman is that is she's like a grief counselor or something like that. That is sort of comes in before the meeting and makes sure everything.
Redhead woman?
No, the black woman.
Okay, she's a lawyer.
She's a lawyer. Okay. She comes in and says, are there tissues? And they're like, oh yeah, of course. And so the woman who works at the church goes over to grab the tissues and puts it on the table. And she goes, no, don't just make them visible. Don't put them on the table. That's going to be really weird. But then stuff that she thinks might be huge aren't really all that big. And so like, it shows what a delicate balance that you have when you're having people talk to each other, and it's the subject matter is heavy. A couple played by Martha Plimpton and Jason Isaacs show up first. They don't know if they're even wanting to go through with this at all. You're like, what the hell? What? They're just going to a church. They're meeting. What is this all about? And then, another couple, Ann Dowd and a guy, I can't call his name right off the bat, but he's been in a lot of stuff. He's one of those character actors that's been in a lot of movies. Are you looking it up?
Reed Birney.
Reed Birney. That's right. They show up, and these two couples have a bit of an awkward, how do we get into it? Do we start talking about niceties? Do we do, whatever? It's not until, and you can see these little things where Ann Dowd says something like, we did this so that we could protect our son. And she means the son that's still living. We don't know that right now, but Martha Plimpton looks at her like, protect your son.
Yeah.
Fuck you, protect your son, basically.
Yeah.
But then Ann Dowd realizes, it's the other guy. But whatever. So there's all these little teeter-totter things going on. But finally, once they start, they exchange pictures and all this, and Martha Plimpton's like, I want to know about your son. I want to know about him. And the father asks, why do you want to know about my son? And she goes, why do I want to know about your son? Is because your son killed mine. And it's so just slipped out like that. And I think all four of these actors have a moment in this. They all have their own, talking about something heavy. What this movie does is they're trying to get some sort of closure therapy out of all of this. How is it Martha Plimpton and Jason Isaacs really want to know, where did you fuck up when you raised this kid? I want to know what you did and how and what you knew and when you knew it. And Ann Dowd and they're sitting, we didn't know. We couldn't know. There wasn't anything that told us that there was anything that was going to happen. We know that he was depressed. We know he didn't fit in at school. He was bullied. He was all these different things. And it becomes, incredulousness on the other side. Like, how can you possibly not know? How can you not know this type of stuff? And I think that's it's gotta be the most fair you can be to parents who have a child who does something like this, because how could you know? I mean, you can't really know everything about your kid. You can't, unless you're just, I don't know, you're just spying on them or something. I don't know. So that's where that's where this movie is. It's humanizing everybody involved. It doesn't absolve this kid for doing what he did at all. I'm not saying that at all. What it does do is it absolves the parents. The parents are not to blame here. So that's what this whole thing's about. And it also gets on the other side here. Martha Plimpton and Jason Isaacs have to realize that they've lost a child too. This is something that they didn't, expect or anything. And this is where Reed Birney gets his moment too, because after Jason Isaacs talks about, what happened to his son minute by minute in that whole thing, which is Jason Isaacs' big moment in this.
Yeah, he's crying and he goes, "You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. I know."
Mm-hmm. Oh. He says the final bullet was shot at 1:36 on the afternoon, and it was into his son. And this is when, I don't know exactly what the reason is for it, but it's Fran Kranz who directed this. He changes the aspect ratio of this movie after this. There's a point where after Jason Isaacs says all of that, it cuts to an outside of a field where there's like a high school football field. And then it narrows down to another aspect ratio. And that's when Reed Birney has his moment where he talks about, like, he knows all these families. He knows everybody who's been affected by this. And then he says, and I'm sorry, with respectfully, at 141, the final shot was shot in the library.
Yeah.
And so, when you go through all of this harrowing, bit by bit of this kid shooting up this school, which is, I think it's around 8 or 9, maybe 10, people he kills in this. It really, it's stunning just to watch these actors go through it. It's stunning also, especially considering what we've just had to endure yet again in this country. What everybody, and it's even then, it's still not enough, right? Even all of this is not enough. There's not going to be enough therapy in the world.
Well, and it's been like 5 years since this event. And I think that's part of what I love so much about that opening, where you don't really understand what's going on, but it's sort of, I think, trying to show you this is just an ordinary day for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But for these two sets of parents, they are still carrying around this massive weight.
Mm-hmm.
But you see the awkward exchanges with the woman who works at the church, and like you said, with the Kleenex, because the lady tells her to move the Kleenex, and she's like, "Oh, of course, yes, I should have known. You're right. I'm sorry." And that's just her showing deference to the seriousness of the moment. But at the end, they're like, "Oh, is that a choir?" And she's like, "Oh, the choir's practicing." And she turns back to her assistant, and he's like, "I told you this morning the choir was going to be." It's just a normal freaking day for everyone else, except for these two sets of parents. It's a huge day. And I think this movie could have veered Hallmarky really easy.
Yep.
And it's a credit to both the writing, the directing, and the acting, all three of those things that make these people feel real instead of characters.
Mm-hmm.
I cried twice during this movie.
Yeah, me too, several times.
Especially when Ann Dowd comes back at the very end to tell her story, which is harrowing.
Mm-hmm.
But the way she is wrapping it up by saying, I wish I would have let him beat me up.
Yeah.
So that I would have known what a monster he was.
Mm-hmm.
Is heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's enough. I don't think there is enough done in these events to give grace to the parents. I think that because he even mentions, I still get calls in mail. Some of it's threatening, some of it's supportive. This is years after the fact. I know the Columbine parents got all kinds of hate mail. They had to move. I think this movie is trying to show you that, you cannot parent perfectly no matter your intentions. There are outside elements. They talk about how they moved at a sensitive age for their son, and they clearly regret it. I also love how Ann Dowd and Reed Birney play this, because it's clear they've had all of these conversations a dozen different times. And yet they convey, we've said these things to each other before, but it's still new to the other. Oh God, this movie really rocked me. And I'm ultimately glad that it came when it did, because I think I needed it. Even though, it's been a heavy news couple of weeks and this kind of stuff. This movie could help people heal, I think, down the road. Obviously not a week after a shooting.
No.
But there are a lot of good lessons in this movie, I think.
Yeah, and then they're clear here. I believe it's like 6 years since it's happened in this, and they're still. I believe Ann Dowd and Reed Birney's couple have divorced in this. That's what I get. I get the sense that he's in Baltimore and she's somewhere else, and they're not wearing wedding rings either.
I didn't know. I didn't pick up on any of that.
Through all of this, but it also seems like Martha Plimpton and Jason Isaacs are barely holding on. They're not.
Yes,
because Jason Isaacs, it's explained that he's become sort of an activist in this. He's a gun activist at this point, and anti-gun activist, and he's probably in the media now and then. they don't, he and Martha Plimpton don't see eye to eye about a lot of things here, but they're still hanging on. They're hanging on maybe for their daughter who's still alive, who's like who's been traumatized and is finally getting back into the social sphere and everything. There's a point too. There's another point where she goes, "Oh, and she's dating now," and he goes, "Well, I don't know if he's," and she's like, "She's dating." So yeah, I get the sense of that, and that that they've been trying to figure out how to move on, and that's why it's there is a great, and I don't know how much we get into that spoiler territory, but I'll just go ahead and at the end, Martha Plimpton ends up forgiving not only the parents but the son, because she feels like the son must have been completely damaged and was going through something that none of us can understand and all that.
Well, she also says, I don't remember how she says it, but she communicates that she just can't keep carrying this weight. She just is done living with this grief. And the only way for her to dump it is to forgive. And I think that's powerful and noble, and I don't know if I could do it.
No, I don't know. I don't know either. I mean, I could see absolving the parents by the end of it.
Yes.
I don't know if I'd ever get to that line where I'd be okay that the kid did it. And I'm sure that there are a lot of other things that people who really study this type of thing, may have some opinions about this killer and like whether or not you can figure out if they're going to do this kind of thing. I mean, yes, there are killers out there who go on social media and tell you that they're going to do it. There's also people who never do anything who say that they're going to go on social media and they do it. So it's why it's so difficult to discern a lot of times who's going to do what and who and how do you categorize all these people. But in the end, I don't think this movie has anything to do with why this person did what they did. It's all about healing and therapy and can you forgive the people who are associated with this person? And more than it is, I wonder how this guy came to do all this stuff. And, one thing, I don't know, I keep hearing this whole, when someone asks, why would someone do something like this? There's always someone like, you don't want to get into somebody's head who does something like this. And I'm like, well, don't you really want to know why? So that not to understand, but to prevent it from happening. Right. You don't really want to be in that situation where you're like, oh, that makes sense. You just want to get to a point where it's something that we can prevent in the future. And that's why you sit there and go, why did this person do this type of thing? So my God, man, this is what a cast. I'm wondering if he got everybody he wanted, because these are the perfect. Ann Dowd has, I don't know of anybody who's increased their profile more at an age that she's at than she has. Handmaid's Tale was the big one for her. The Leftovers was a big one. She's in Hereditary. She's such a go-to, just hammer it out actress. It's amazing how good she is in this. I mean, everybody's so good in this. I mean, Martha Plimpton, God, man, if you're our age, if you were Goonies, she was in the Goonies, and now she's in this movie right here, and you're like, whoa. Like you do that weird, I don't know, thing where you're like, wow, how did you go from Goonies to this? Well, there was a few decades involved, but and then Jason Isaacs has played bad guys for most of his career. And then you see him I know he's done a lot of other stuff other than, like Harry Potter and, Patriot and stuff like that. But you don't get to see him that often do this kind of role. And this is just a big acting tour de force. And yeah.
Are you ready to talk about the double feature?
Yeah.
Be very, very quiet. Secret? What secret?
Our dirty little secret.
I tell you something I've never told anyone.
I struggled a bit because it's such a heavy topic. And there are movies about school shootings.
Oh, yeah.
Like Elephant. There's a movie called We Need to Talk About Kevin. That's about a bow and arrow murder spree.
Yep.
For a long time, I hung on Dead Man Walking because it felt like a similar forgiveness, the hope and the weightlessness of forgiveness. But in the end, I was just too moved by this movie to not go with The Fallout, which is on HBO Max and stars Rachel Ziegler from West Side Story. And it's about a school shooting.
I think this is
Trigger
Maddie
warning.
Ziegler, right? Is it Maddie Ziegler? Or is it Rachel Ziegler? There's two Zieglers, I think. One is...
There are, and I don't know which one it is. I'll look it up. The Fallout. It is Maddie Ziegler, sorry, and Jenna Ortega. There's a school shooting. You experience the audio of it from the bathroom where these two girls who have nothing in common are hiding together in a stall, standing on the toilet. And then you just sort of follow these two as they form a friendship you can only form after having experienced a tragedy together like that. This is a gut punch of a movie. So this is a double feature that's just basically going to run through the Kleenex, but this is a fantastic film that would pair excellently with this because Mass is sort of showing the aftermath for the parents, and The Fallout is showing the aftermath of survivors of the event. It's hard. Her parents want to help. There's a therapist that wants to help, but it's only so much you can do for somebody who's been through that trauma.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're
that's
ready
my
when
double
they're ready.
feature.
I did see The Fallout based on your suggestion. So yeah, this would be obviously an apt double feature. It, your emotions are going to, take a hit during watching both of these. But the Fallout, Jenna Ortega is great in that movie. She is fantastic. And Maddie Ziegler, who I really only knew through like Sia music videos, because she's like the dancer in a lot of those. Like she's in that Shia LaBeouf one, and she's in some other one that she did, I think. So I didn't know that she acted at all. So she's really good in that as well. But yeah, it's kind of amazing from the perspective of their stall, where it's them and then another character comes in at one point where they just hear shots, and that's scary enough. Just imagine being in the middle of all of that. Yeah. I mean, that's the, So, I think that that's a perfect double feature. So,
yeah, I see some good suggestions here. Somebody was saying Queen and Slim. Both movies are concerned with showing the perspective that the news can't give about violent events. Somebody else suggested The Weatherman or Bowling for Columbine. Those are all good suggestions.
Yeah.
Next week, I have determined that we need to laugh.
Are you ready to laugh?
So I am going to go with an old-ass black and white movie that is either a classic you've seen or it's on your list of shame. Arsenic and Old Lace. This is a Frank Capra movie with Cary Grant. There's actually murder in this.
Yeah.
But it's
But
comical
it's the
murder.
funny kind of murder. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the ha-ha kind of murder. I have not seen this movie in probably 7 or 8 years. I watched it a lot as a kid. My mom exposed me to it. It's one of those slamming door farces. The entire run of Frasier owes its existence to movies like this.
Sure does.
And I can't wait to get into it. Apologies, this movie is not streaming anywhere for free. You will have to rent it on Amazon, YouTube, Google, whatever. You can rent it anywhere for $2 or $3, and I apologize. But we've had a lot of heavy drama in the last few weeks of Recotopia, and I think it's time for us to giggle and laugh. And Arsenic and Old Lace, next week's homework.
Yeah, I've seen this twice, and looking forward to seeing it again. It's probably been about the same length of time since I've seen it last time too. I remember this is one of those. I watched it the first time in the middle of a whole bunch of other classics, and then a bunch of years passed by. And then I had it recorded on TCM, and I was like, I've never seen this before, and started watching it, and I was like, oh, okay, it's that movie. Okay, I gotcha. So, yeah, this is good stuff.
All right, let's dive into some questions.
Yeah.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
What you think about that? All right, very simple one, and I don't know, you can answer this however you want, all time or current. Who is your favorite screenwriter?
You know, I looked at this for a bit. Now, in all honesty, probably somebody like Quentin Tarantino is, because there's just so many quotable things from all of his movies. But I'm gonna go with somebody like William Goldman, who did The Princess Bride. He did all The President's Men, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Marathon Man, Misery. I mean, and you know, the guy actually literally wrote a book on screenplays. So, you know, a lot of the stuff that you enjoyed over the years is many times attributed to William Goldman. I'd also put, as far as writer directors in there, Richard Linklater, because, you know, Dazed and Confused is great, and a lot of, like, you know, Boyhood and all these are just really good, well done. So anyway, yeah.
That's a good answer. I went with my current favorite, and that's Drew Goddard. Mostly for the two films he's directed, which is Bad Times at the El Royale and Cabin in the Woods, as well as The Martian, which he wrote the screenplay for. But he also was a writer on Buffy and Angel and Alias and Lost. He wrote Cloverfield. He wrote World War Z. He created the Daredevil series on Netflix and wrote a bunch of those episodes. And he's got Robopocalypse, The Sinister Six, and Project Hail Mary, the next Andy Weir movie, all coming up. And I feel like he is King Midas at this point. Everything he touches cinematically has turned to gold for me, and so I cannot wait. And somebody here says Drew Goddard is their pick to direct the MCU X-Men movie.
Ooh, that would be nice.
That would be wild.
Yeah, Billy Wilder's mentioned. Billy Wilder obviously is an all-timer. I would, you know, probably goes on the Mount Rushmore of screenwriters. And then someone also mentions Aaron Sorkin. Now, I really like Aaron Sorkin. I really like him. I don't know if I'd put him in my favorites, just because there is a little bit of, like, he's full of himself a lot of times when he writes. Although that could be said for a lot of these big screenwriters. They're really full of themselves. But Sorkin is great. Yeah, I do like Sorkin.
I see somebody asking about Tom Stoppard. He's a great writer.
Oh, yeah, Tom Stoppard, sure.
I don't know if he has enough hits, but he did write Shakespeare in Love, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. Billy Bathgate.
Yeah,
Billy Bathgate.
Billy Bath. Yeah.
That may be the first Billy Bathgate reference on the show.
I think it is.
Hope it's not the last.
Let's mark this moment. 45 minutes into episode 18. Billy Bathgate, first reference.
All right, next question. What are some of your favorite side characters from a movie? Inspired by the rattlesnake of a waitress in Hell or High Water.
One of my favorite moments in the movie Mean Girls is when they're at that mathlete competition. And at the very end, Lindsay Lohan does that, you know, that whole there is no limit or something like that. It's a trick question, whatever. Wins the mathlete competition for her school or whatever. And the guy who's like the leader of that mathlete competition, like, starts dancing like, oh, yeah, and he rips his shirt off and does all this dancing and stuff. Oh, my God, that dude is hilarious. He's hilarious throughout that movie.
Oh, man.
But I think his name is like Rajiv Surendra or something like that. He's out of Mean Girls, there's so many great, like, people who shot to stardom in that movie, but he, like, he steals like a couple of scenes that he's in because he's so funny.
He does.
Mhm.
You could answer Tim Meadows from that movie, and I'd be happy with that.
Yeah,
too,
Tim
because
Meadows. No, yeah, Tim
always
Meadows
cracks me up.
Yeah.
My answer is the same actress who played the rattlesnake of a waitress in Hell or High Water, but her bit from No Country for Old Men, where he does the thing where he wants to get a second room specifically next to his room, because they will share air conditioning ducts, and he wants to shove the briefcase with the money into the AC duct. And he goes in there and he's like, I want to get another room. And she's like, what's wrong with the room you got? No, I want to get a second room. And she's like, you want to change rooms? No, I want to get a second room in addition. And she shows him, he asks if they have a map. She says, we got kind of sort of one. Like, she's such an awesome freaking actress. I swear to God, she's not even an actress. She's just Texas.
Yeah.
But he points out the room he wants, and she goes, that's got 2 double beds.
Yeah. You're so fucking dumb.
Steve, why are you paying for this? So that was my answer. I love that actress. And I hope she does more Texas stuff. All right. I keep getting lost in my list. What are you an expert or just really knowledgeable about that most folks would not suspect?
I don't know. I thought about a bunch of, I'm one of these who has some knowledge of a lot of things. Like I guess you jack of all trades kind of thing, but I think most people would be surprised how much general music knowledge. I'm not saying like I know, music front and back or anything like that, or know when an album came out or all this type of stuff. But like, there are a lot of times where like a song comes on and it's from a one-hit wonder and I'll name that band, or I'll, I haven't heard it in forever, or I'll, be able to come out with certain details about a band or an album or whatever. I think, just, you know that I have some decent movie knowledge, but you probably didn't know that I have some decent music knowledge as well, probably from listening to the podcast or whatever. So
interesting. One of my answers is music related, but I don't have music knowledge. Like, I have music theory. I took 12 years of piano lessons and played the guitar. I was in a band. I remember when the pandemic started, I made a video on my personal channel of me covering a Radiohead song, and like half the comments were like, I didn't know you played keys and stuff like that. Because if you know me from Cinemasins, it's not common. The other weird one is that because I'm my mother's son, I'm pretty good at identifying birds. My mom's a big birder. We always had bird feeders. My mom keeps a life list. Every time she goes on a trip, she charts all the birds she sees on that trip. I'm not that active. I don't have a life list, and I don't keep track of birds when I go on a trip. But if you are with me in nature and you say, what's that bird? There's a really good chance I know. And that's osmosis, I think, that just soaked in over the years of living with my mom.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. I want to see if there are any good answers over here. J.C. Davis says, like you would expect, he knows space, the Titanic, and plants. Josh says etymology, which I believe is words, not bugs. They're very similar. One is entomology and one is etymology. I honestly don't know which is which. I spent all my time learning music theory. Star Wars trivia. Yes, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I think JC may have to refresh my memory, but I do think there was something. We had a discussion about passengers once, and I was saying something like, "Why don't they have faster messages and stuff?" And I think he sent me a message saying, "Well, it can only go as fast as the space allows," basically. And I was like, yes, but if they have the infrastructure for entire ships to go to planets, they should have the infrastructure to be able to talk to somebody close by that, that doesn't take them all the way back to Earth. Anyway,
I think that's how a space version of the lighting of the lamps in the Lord of the Rings, right? With they light a lantern on the top of the mountains. They should have little beacons that can relay messages.
Yeah.
I was right. Etymology is word origins. Entomology is bugs. Those words should not be so similar.
They should
I'd like
not.
to get to the bottom of the etymology of how those two words came to coexist. I believe we got some time. Let's do another. You guys talk about food a lot. I know you like good food. What dishes or ingredients will you not touch no matter what? What weird food quirks can you admit to?
I fucking hate pickles.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow.
They fuck everything up when they put pickles on anything. And over the years, I've realized that everybody around me loves pickles. And so if I ever accidentally get pickles on my hamburger, or if there's a pickle spear on my dish or anything like that, I always ask the table, do you want my fucking pickles? Because I can't stand them. I think they make everything worse, and I don't know how you dirty bastards eat them. So
okay, now this is awesome. I love pickles straight, like a dill pickle spear.
Yep.
But I don't want pickles on anything. I don't want it on any sandwich. I don't want it on a burger. I don't want it on a damn pizza. So I'm kind of with you. I don't like relish, which is basically minced pickles, in my opinion.
Which is weird. I can take relish, because relish has got a little bit of sweet. Well, I mean, pickles can too, but like relish can be sweet.
Sure.
Yeah.
I until like almost college, I tried not to eat foods that were white.
Which reminds me, there's a joke in that '70s show where Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis have this. He takes out all the white M&Ms or something, because he says, I took out all the white M&Ms because I know that you don't like to eat anything white. It's like, why do you not like white stuff? What is the deal?
It might be I think there may actually be a thing, because there's an episode of Numbers where Peter McNichol is only eating white foods, and it's a philosophical thing. But like, I think what happened was I didn't like the first couple of white foods I tried, like sour cream and cauliflower. So I never had any mayonnaise until I got to college. Boy, did I miss out. Anyway, mushrooms are a little weird for me in that I really like the flavor, but I hate the texture.
Yeah.
So I will order foods like, I'll order like chicken marsala at, an Italian place, and just pick the mushrooms off, but I love that mushroom gravy that's there on the chicken.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit weird. And then if you eat a hamburger without cheese, other than dietary reasons, you just make me sad, man.
Yeah, I used to eat plain hamburgers when I was growing up, like all the way till like, I don't know how long ago it was. But yeah, now it needs to have some cheese or bacon combo on it of some sort before I'll eat it. So
somebody agrees with me on pickles. They're gross on things. Not an eggplant fan, somebody says.
Yeah, eggplant is one of those weird ones, right? Like I can deal with it. It's just not what I would prefer or whatever, But I remember when I was in New York, and there was an Amish market next to the place that I worked, and they had this little deli, and I started to get to know the guy who made sandwiches pretty well, because you go over there all the time, and he's like, have you ever tried an eggplant whatever this or whatever? And he made this eggplant sandwich that was stellar. But a lot of times, yeah, you get stuff with eggplant in it, and it's like, okay, I could have done without that.
Listen, this is an obvious answer, but beets all the way.
Oh
Beets
my
should
God.
not be classified as a food.
No.
We went to this place in Nashville, Chris and I and a bunch of the Sins team, called the Catbird Seat. This is a U-shaped rectangular bar that only seats 20, and it's very expensive, and you watch in the middle as they make all the dishes, and it's super fine dining, so there's like microgreens and dots and smears, and it was one of the best meals I've ever had in my life. They served a beet course, and because it was them, I tried it, because I thought if anybody's going to make beets good, it's these guys, and I hated it. It's gross. Then later they gave me pistachio ice cream, literally one of the 3 best things I've ever eaten.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Yep.
Beets are awesome. Josh, you are now banned from the next live chat.
Yep.
I think that's probably enough for today. I appreciate everybody for showing up in the chat and for giving us answers and chiming in. This is becoming a weekly routine that I quite enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of fun. Thank you guys for coming out. We really, really appreciate it. And tell your friends. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Your homework for next week is Arsenic and Old Lace.
Mm-hmm.
You will have to rent, but you will be glad you did.
Absolutely. Well worth the whatever $3.99 that you'd have to pay for it. So, so yeah, good stuff. Anyway, see you guys. Bye. Be a part of the live show by being a member of the Sin Club at Patreon at patreon.com/cinemasins. Chat with us on the Cinemasins Discord at discord.gg/cinemasins or Cinemasins Twitter at Cinemasins, and email any comments or questions to Recotopia at cinemasins.com. That's RECOTOPIA at cinemasins.com.
Everybody. I just read this thread about the origins of Memorial Day.
Okay.
And it goes back to 1865 when freed slaves started a tradition to honor fallen Union soldiers and to celebrate emancipation and commemorate those who died for a cause. Basically, the Confederates had turned this race jockey club into a prison. And as the war was ending, the prisoners just died by the hundreds. So they buried them all in a mass grave. This is a really sunny way to start the show. There's so much they didn't teach me in school.
Yeah.
And that's just one more thing. And this is why, even though Twitter is an absolute cesspool that I believe is a cancer on our public discourse, it still does stuff like that, where I get a whole thread to get educated and learn. And that's why I haven't left completely yet.
I mean, same thing goes for like why we sing the national anthem at sporting events, stuff like that. That's another big thing that people think, oh, we've been doing that forever. And well, no, we haven't.
But I learned about 6 different times about James Naismith inventing basketball. But yeah, I never learned about Black Wall Street Massacre. I never learned about the origins of Memorial Day.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in, Williamson County, Tennessee, and they didn't tell us about Black Wall Street. They didn't tell us about Juneteenth. They didn't tell us about any of that. I only found out about those recently.
Yeah, a TV show. Sorry.
Yeah.
The TV show had to turn us on to that.
In fact, there was when that first Watchmen episode aired, the one of the people that I read every day, Kevin Cruz, was talking about, like, this may be the first time a lot of you are hearing about this this thing. He actually went to school here in Tennessee, but he apparently went to some good schools because he actually heard about a lot of this stuff back in the day.
I just saw a headline that Gary Sinise moved his family and his foundation to Tennessee.
Really?
Yeah. So now you may, no, I don't know where in Tennessee, but it's possible you might be at, McDonald's. Right in line behind you is Gary Sinise, Lieutenant Dan himself.
Could be. I know that Nicole Kidman's been here for like a decade, and I still haven't run into her. So
no, but I do know people who have. Somebody we know saw a movie with their family. Like Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were in the theater with their kids. Somebody we know saw a movie. I don't know who it is, but
I know a lot of people who have seen them. I don't know. I guess I just don't get out enough. You know what I mean? I just don't.
I mean, Kelly Clarkson apparently owned a mansion, like in Hendersonville, where I have spent a lot of time, and I never saw her. Never ran into her. So what are you gonna do?
Well, at Hollywood 27, I never really ran into people because I was upstairs all the time. But at Williamson Square,
that's true.
At Williamson Square, that's where I ran into. Well, Williamson Square, it basically came down to Ashley Judd, Naomi Judd, Winona Judd, and Billy Ray Cyrus, and pre-fame Miley and or Noah Cyrus when they were very small children. So those were the only ones I really ran into. But then, there's always been these little sporadic ones that happen.
That's how we have D'_O. OH
Mhm.
is in the dictionary
Yeah.
because of Homer Simpson.
Yeah.
That's the only thing the Simpsons have given us
Only
as a
thing.
culture.
The only thing. You know, they've actually talked about how that came about because there was these old shows where they couldn't swear, so they would almost say "damn" and then they'd say "oh" after they. So it's more of a "duh oh" like that,
Duh-oh.
and then of course you know it gets to these writers and people who watched that type of stuff when they were kids, and it's become dope.
Oh no!